podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There, the latest season that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, we've been providing you the most amazing authors and minds on the Chris Voss Show for the last 16 years and over 2,000 episodes. Refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives, or else. No, I don't know what the or else mean. We're not going to do or else. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss One, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have a young man on the show with his latest book that he has out, and some of the other wares we're going to be talking about that he does to help you be better at what you do. C.J. Ledy is on the show with us today. His new book that was out January 9th, 2024 is called Tune Your Mind: Finding Follow-Through and Fulfillment in the Dawn of Distraction and Disruption. Boy, we really need that these days, huh? The way we're living our lives and doing our things, we're a real mess. We could use all the help we could get. CJ is a coach, keynote speaker, author, and podcaster. He is also a real estate entrepreneur with sales and volume of $100 million plus. Coaching over a decade, he has worked with Fortune 100 companies, artists, musicians, professional athletes, and countless individuals. He's currently traveling North America in his toy hauler RV. He has hobbies of being a private pilot, a real estate investor, guitarist, snow skier, and struggling surfer. I'm not sure what the struggling surfer means, but we'll find out. CJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you for having me.
There you go. Do we need to get a struggling surfer coach on the show for you? Is that?
I think we might. That I've hung it up actually as of a month ago. I got rid of my surfboard because I'm in Utah now.
Oh,
I was in California for about 5 years, and then I bought an RV and have been traveling for 2 and stopped here in Utah where we just bought an RV park that we're doing kind of a health and wellness spin at here. So
there you go.
I'm hanging up the surfboard for now.
Which part of Utah?
It's about an hour south of Salt Lake. It's a town called Nephi.
Yeah. Nephi.
Familiar?
Yeah. I've passed there a million times between Salt Lake and Las Vegas. So give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs to get to know you better? You want them to check you out?
Yeah, you can find me at cjledy.com. So that's cjledy.com. And you can also find me on my podcast, Mindset is Art. I've got my book, Tune Your Mind, like Chris already mentioned, Finding Follow-Through and Fulfillment. That's a little blurry. The Dawn of Distraction and Disruption. I'm sure we'll tag it in the show notes, but that's you can find that on Amazon. You can find my audio book as well on Amazon, which was just released about a week ago, which is exciting too. So and I do speeches and the like. I've got a couple coming up. I'm speaking at an event in a week in Minnesota. It's a music festival for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. So I've got a keynote that I'm speaking at there, and couple other things, but that's the main. Those are the highlights and where to find me.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your book?
Well, it's called Tune Your Mind: Finding Follow-Through and Fulfillment in the Dawn of Distraction and Disruption. So it's really about dealing with what we've got going on today. Like you said in your introduction, it's something that everybody can use. I think we're all inundated with distractions and the way that the world is moving and the rate at which things are changing economically and the way that we do business and all the things. There's many disruptions as well. So being in tune mentally is a way to adapt to the changes that come about and really to embrace this new era that we are thrown into. Because there's lots of potential and lots of opportunities there. So my book really talks about a 3-step process for how to orient your thoughts around the things that are important to you, whether that's your career or your health or relationships. You choose one specific aspect, and then there's a mindset sound check that figures out how are you currently thinking about that. So it's kind of like tuning a guitar. First, you figure out what pieces are out of tune. Then I give you a couple specific tools based on the areas that you might be a little bit weak in and teach you how to tune your mind.
There you go. Tune your mind. because there is a lot of noise and distraction, especially with social media and our phones and yada yada yada, and the news, and the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
of course.
And I like how you use the analogy. You're a guitarist, I think, right? We talked about in your bio. I like
Yep.
how you use the analogy of the guitar. You say even in the hands of a legendary guitarist, an untuned guitar sounds terrible. What if I know a lot of people on social media and Facebook that have just plain broken guitars? Is that fixable, or is
Yep.
stupid
Unfortunately, all too common.
stupid forever?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody comes with a different guitar in their hands or their head. Nobody's got what they've got. But I think that everybody, even people who maybe don't have the best processor from the beginning,
Mhm.
um, as long as you can direct it wisely and intelligently, I think that, you know, it's not how good your guitar is, it's how good you are at playing it at the end of the day. You
Ah,
know.
there you go. Slowly my guitar weeps. There you go.
Right.
I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, and you're right. If I watch like there's one thing I for some reason can tell when a piano's out of tune. I don't know why. I have a weird thing about it, but I'll be watching people on like TikTok or some other place, and they'll be playing piano and doing whatever their lives and stuff, and I'll be just sitting there just going, oh my god, that thing's so freaking out of tune. I just want to throw myself, just want to throw myself
Then
on
you
the
got a
floor.
good ear.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, but it seems to work, and it's but I'll hear it and it'll drive me nuts because it used to drive me nuts on my own piano where I if a couple keys were fell out, I'd have to call the guy and be like, you got to come over and fix this.
Yep.
I was like, it's not that far off, Chris. Like it's off, I can tell. And it's not like I'm a great pianist. I don't know. I grew up listening to piano from my grandmother, and I just know. So, tuning your mind. You also espouse that your mind is your most valuable instrument, although for some, I'm wondering about on the internet. So, how does your instrument sound, and how do we keep it tuned? What are some concepts you talk about in the book on how to tune this darn thing, and how do we keep it from getting out of tune? I guess.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, you can choose an important aspect of your life. So let's take your career, for instance. So within the tuning section, like I said, it's three parts. The first, you figure out if you're in tune or out of tune. Then the second part, we figure out how to tune it. So let's say you take your career, there's 5 different strings that I refer to in the mind. One is
Mm-hmm.
passion. So it comes from understanding the purpose and the meaning behind what you do. So essentially, you go through and you ask yourself those questions. Why is this important? Really define and refine your sense of purpose, which helps to tune that string in your mind. Then the next string is clarity. So it's understanding where you're going. So do you have a clear long-term destination, and do you know the strategy to get there? And then the third one is momentum. So it's understanding how much action and energy you need to be putting in to be successful in your career. Is that 40 hours a week? Is it 50? What type of energy levels do you need to show up with? So it helps you with a few tools if you're falling short there too. And then the fourth piece is a sense of subconscious ease. So that's if your limiting beliefs are well, it's really a battle between your empowering beliefs and your limiting beliefs. So do you have more beliefs that build you up and push you in the right direction? Or subconsciously, are you held back by fears and ideas that kind of slow you down? And then the fifth and
Oh.
final string is a sense of necessity. So it's
Mhm.
been proven many times that somebody who has a deep, dying belief that what they're doing is necessary, it has to happen versus something that you'd like to do. Those are
Mhm.
the people who actually get things done. So it's about building a sense of necessity as well. So you go through, and I have a bunch of different tools for each of those different aspects. And by the end, if you can really be I do a scale, a 1 to 10 scale, and I break it down much more nuanced. But essentially, if you're an 8 or higher in all 5 of those categories, then you are in tune and your mind is really helping you versus standing in your way from your career, your health, your whatever is important to you.
There you go. And so having that sort of focus really helps. Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing, how you were raised, what influenced you, what got you into owning your own businesses, as the real estate, et cetera, and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs. My grandparents started a manufacturing business out of their garage
Mm.
65 years ago or something, and my dad ended up taking that over. building it into a few different branches of medical manufacturing and a few other things. And our family's always participated in helping out with the business. And then my mom's side, I come from a long list of entrepreneurs too, even many generations back, but a lot of real estate as of late from my mom's side. My grandma's one of the top real estate agents. She's in her 80s now, and she's still outperforming most people in their 30s and 40s. She's got a lot of horsepower. So I kind of learned the ropes from all of them. And
there you go.
I always knew that I wanted to be on the investment side versus just a salesperson. Not that there's anything wrong with either direction, but I wanted long-term wealth creation to the point where, I don't believe it really ever becomes truly passive, but get to a point where you can truly scale. You kind of got to be on the ownership side. So I moved to California about 7 years ago, and I joined a commercial real estate brokerage, and I've been selling RV parks, mobile home parks, and and self-storage, a little bit of a few other asset classes, but those are our main bread and butter. And I bought a park up in Northern California, an RV park, about 2.5 years ago that we redeveloped. And then just as of a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I bought a park here in Utah that is about 60 spaces, and we're going to build it out into a whole health and wellness spin. So we're adding a gym and a sauna and a cold plunge. We're going to do a sensory deprivation tank, and we're going to hopefully eventually host some retreats and stuff like that here too. So
RV parks living the high life. There's a lot of people doing the RV. What do they call it?
Van life?
Yeah, like van life sort of thing.
Yeah,
A lot of people still doing that, I guess.
It's it comes and goes and surges, but it's pretty consistent that there's a lot of especially retired people that love to live in RVs and snowbird from wherever they're at. But there's a huge millennial wave that's coming through the RV space as well. COVID in particular was a massive spike for RVing. Yeah. There was a ton of people because you couldn't travel any other way. So a bunch of people bought RVs. It was record RV sales. They just couldn't sell them fast enough. And so now you got a lot of people on the road with these things, and parks are busy. Parks are full across the nation. So
wow, there you go. We've had a lot of people on this show that are doing mobile home park investment and building those out and buying them up and then renovating them and stuff like what you're talking about doing with RV. I didn't know they were doing that with RVs now, but that makes sense, right? It's I was actually gonna buy one of those Mercedes Land Rover or Land Runner.
Yeah, Sprinter van deals.
Sprinter van, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was going to buy one because we were doing a lot of shows before COVID where we were doing CS and all the other shows. We still do shows and tour, but we don't do it like we used to. We were going to basically turn the podcast into part of the van so that we could tour around and just open the van and have a pull-out podcast thing to do interviews with CEOs and stuff. And COVID killed it. and then I think we saw the prices of the vans and stuff, and it was like they killed all the events that we would normally go to, and so it's probably a good thing. I don't know, maybe that didn't work out, but the main idea behind it was being able to take my dogs on trips with me instead of having to kennel them and pay extra costs for the kenneling and then extra costs for the hotels, then flying red eyes everywhere at the last fucking second and all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. So you translated a lot of what you've espoused in the book and developed throughout your life with real estate and growing up, seeing the entrepreneur influence of your family, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, and to rewind a little bit too, where I got interested in the whole mindset and personal development space, that came out of left field for me. I grew up with a lot of social anxiety, and I really didn't even realize how impactful it was in my life. But when I was 18 years old, I was hypnotized, and one of those stage hypnotist guys where they make people dance like a chicken on the stage. And I didn't go up there. I wasn't going to embarrass myself in front of all those people with my social anxieties. But afterwards, he said, "Hey, everybody in the crowd, I'm going to hypnotize you if you want to stick around." So next thing I know, I was in this deep trance, and I basically was asleep with my head in my lap. I'd never meditated before, anything like that. And when I came out of it, well, one of the things he said, you can focus on one of three things: stop smoking, lose weight, or stop the fear of what others think of you.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was skinny, it wasn't interested in cigarettes. So I defaulted to, not worrying so much about what people think about me. And when I came out of it, everything changed for me. He asked right off the bat, as soon as we walked out, he said, "Hey, how long do you guys think that lasted?" In an auditorium of about 400 people with my social anxieties, I was the first person I screamed out at the top of my lungs, 5 minutes. And it shocked me. It was not a normal reaction for me. And I was like, whoa.
Oh,
And everybody looked and stared at me. And usually I would have gotten so much anxiety and stress going through my body, and I felt nothing. I was just
oh,
completely relaxed. And the guy pointed to me, he's like, that guy was in a very deep state of trance. And I was like,
wow.
what just happened? And literally the next 5-6 days
Mm-hmm.
it was something out of a movie. I had never experienced that level of just peace of mind, of clarity on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to show up. I was better in sports. I had a presentation in class. Like, I just felt like anything was possible. I didn't realize how many fears and how many ideas had been slowing me down. And it was like all of those just moved out of the way. And I just showed up naturally. It wasn't that I was like super confident. It was just like I was just at peace. I wasn't worried about doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've just been obsessed with this idea that, our subconscious mind and these ideas and beliefs that are deeply rooted and we don't even realize are there oftentimes are completely scripting our lives, how we
Oh,
feel
yeah.
about the things we do, how successfully we do the things that we do. And so once I had that wake up call, I've just been on a mission for the last, 15 years of traveling to different countries to study different cultural approaches to mental health and well-being, read countless books on personal development, obviously wrote my own, working with people. Mostly my coaching got started out of just passion and interest in how people thought. I would just have deep conversations with people about their mindset. And through it, we would have epiphanies and discoveries, and they'd come back going, God, that conversation changed my life or changed how I was thinking about this. And now, blah, blah, blah. And so I just realized, like, wow, this is something that I love and something that's worth pursuing as more than just a little hobby. So that's kind of where my interest in coaching and mindset has really been born from.
Well, that's awesome. The and you put all the work and stuff. We just had a hypnotist on yesterday
No
on the
kidding.
show with a book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. We didn't. I'm just hypnotizing you to think that we did that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that
Very
good. I don't know.
hypnotizable. So
I don't know how to hypnotize anybody. So I know how to bore them to death so they drool out the side of their mouth. Well, I do that on dates, but other than
well,
that,
you probably do. You're probably doing more hypnotic trance work than you think. A lot of
uh-huh.
hypnosis is really just about it's neuro-linguistic programming is kind of the school of thought, but it's essentially the way that you speak gets people to kind of quiet the normal thought processes of their mind and tune into your voice. And because you're a great podcast host, you're probably using a lot of hypnotic trance patterns just without ever realizing it.
I think the problem is that on the dates I'm using my hands like this, going,
Yeah, that's
you
distracting
will
from.
go to sleep or something. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah.
I'm just doing jokes here, people.
We can work on
So
that too. Yeah.
yeah, the jokes or the hypnosis.
But
So yeah, you gotta love it. What are some other techniques maybe we haven't explored that are inside your book?
yeah, well, one that I really like is called the why, the what, and the how. And
Oh,
it's really a process that you can do just in about 30 seconds, but it helps you to really prime your mind and get rooted for something that's important to you. I like to do it before the gym or before I sit down to work or do a podcast or something. So the
mm-hmm.
first question is the why. So why are you doing what you're doing? Just spending a few seconds to say, well, I'm going to go work out because health is important to me and I want to be, fit in my old age and blah, 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 blah. And you
Mm-hmm.
say, what am I going to do? And you just think about it for a second. You see yourself doing that. So if it's a workout, you see yourself doing the exercise, pushing yourself maybe a little bit farther than you normally do. And then
Mm-hmm.
coming out the other end, or even 5 years from now in like great physical shape. You just envision that for a second. And
Mm-hmm.
then the final piece is the how. So how do you want to show up mentally? So that's really about just taking a second to say, okay, if I'm going to go do a workout, how do I want to feel? It's like, well, I want to feel energy. I want to be excited that I'm here. I want to push myself. So it's like just spending a second to think through those three things. It connects you to your identity, the purpose and meaning behind why you're doing it. It connects you to a sense of strategy. You see the what, And then it connects you to your physiology and your emotional state. And it helps you to just prime yourself. And like I said, you can do it in literally 30 seconds. You just think, why am I doing this? What am I going to do? And how do I want to do it? And even if you never think about it again for the rest of your workout or work day or whatever it is, the more you start to practice priming your mind to show up in the way that you want to, the more that naturally becomes a subconscious habit, and it just happens without your influence.
So there you go. You set it up to where you can constantly build it out. You get the habit forming thing that you do. So you kind of just keep doing that for a while until it sticks. Then.
Yeah, well, I find that it's useful the very first time you do it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
great the long-term effects of doing it consistently, especially if there's, if it's for working out, for example. If you do that every time for 10 times in a row, I guarantee you're going to start to have a lot more just subconscious motivation to be working out beyond the exercises themselves. But if you really tune in with it, especially if you do it for like 5 minutes, like I like to go sit in the sauna before a workout, and I will just think through those things for 5 minutes. And when I really connect to it, it's like sometimes I go to the gym and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to be here or whatever. But if I really connect with those pieces and say, why is this important to me, and really feel it, I always come out of the sauna like ready to go, or at least in a better state than I was coming in, So just I do believe that each day you do it, you will have a positive effect literally right afterwards. But I think long-term is really where it pays off.
Definitely. Well, identifying for your brain the why of why you want to do something as you putting it into your identity, and that's very different than just being like, well, I think I want to, I don't know, I think I want to work out at the gym some more. Well, what does that mean? I mean, what is that? How does the
Exactly.
body and the mind facilitate that? Where
Right.
if there's a why there, we always want to understand the why. If there's a why there, you go, okay, well, this makes sense as to why this is important and what's the value of it to me. Instead of just being like, well, I just want to go to the gym, get some muscles or something.
Totally.
You've got a whole lot more input that you've done in there and that you can work with. Talk to us about some of the things you have on your website. I know you've got your podcasts, you've got coaching. Talk to us some of the offerings that you have on your website that you offer to people.
Well, for one, I've got a little quiz that I can send to you. If you got some show notes, we could throw it in. But through this quiz, it's the mindset sound check to figure out, is your mind in tune within an area. You get to choose whether it's your work or your health or whatever. You pick an area, and then you go through and ask yourself these 5 different questions to figure out if you're in tune or out of tune. And then with that, I actually will include a free copy of my ebook. If you fill it out there, it'll be emailed to you, free copy of the ebook. But yeah, obviously I have my podcast on there as well. I do speaking engagements. I'm doing this suicide awareness one coming up in a month here. I've also, or in a couple weeks here, I've got, I work with some, high schoolers too. I work with some high schoolers in Minnesota. It's a soccer team, and I help them with mental performance. And so kind of going through really teaching them the ways that the mind influences their physical performance and their ability to really show up in a sports world. I think that there's so many wild applications for mindset and psychology. I think 2 of the strongest that are really untapped is in the work world and also in sports. Sports there's been such a heavy emphasis on physical ability and strength and the fundamentals of basketball, of taking the shot over and over. But the mind is really what's running your body. And when you introduce fear and pressure and things like that, if you don't know how to address those, you're putting your body into a whole different physiological state. And at that point, it changes how you're going to react. So you might you in practice or behind closed doors with yourself, you can shoot the hoop every time. But when pressure mounts, how do you handle that? So there's a lot of ways that people can, simple tools that people can use to really understand the way that their mind affects them in many avenues, certainly sport.
Definitely. How do people onboard with you or handshake with you to find out if coaching with you can help them and onboard? Do you have courses, things of that nature?
Yeah, I have a meditation course on my website there that is a 8-step process to really teach it. Take someone from a beginner level to all the way through you're pretty experienced and can do it all on your own. Essentially, there's 4 different phases to it. One, it's understanding your breathing. That's pretty normal to meditation. But number 2 is your physiology. So it's how to relax yourself, do deep muscle relaxation, essentially put your body to sleep. And it's very restorative. And then the next piece is controlling your heart rate. And then the 4th element is controlling the mind. So slowing your mind down into an alpha state. So it's broken down in 8 different levels, and it kind of walks you through each one, how to create that state in your mind and body. And it's I think it's an easy way for people, because I struggled with that for a long time. As I learned to meditate right after I had that initial hypnosis experience. Because I went into this deep state, it was like I could just, ever since then, I've been able to go back to it. I can meditate in about 2 minutes. I can get into a really deep meditative state. I can put my whole body to sleep to the point where it's pretty much numb and my mind slows all the chatter down. It feels incredible. But people always say, how do you do that? And I hadn't had words for it for a long time. So I finally put that program together.
There you go.
So I think
Saves
it was cool.
you on edibles then.
Exactly. Yeah, you can multiply the effects if you've got some of those sitting around. But also, just for coaching though, people can reach me at coach@cjledy.com. That's where, people will send me initial inquiries, and then I will do a 15 to 30 minute initial coaching call with people that, it's kind of a discovery call to see if what they're interested aligns with, what I can offer. So.
And then you work with corporate teams, senior executive teams, et cetera, et cetera.
I do. Yeah. So I've worked with a few Fortune 100 companies, and typically I'll just go in. I like to work with the head manager. It's oftentimes sales teams, and I will just kind of get their basic blueprint of how they're currently showing up and who are kind of their top performers and maybe who needs a little kick in the butt. And then we'll go through and we'll kind of do about an hour-long session where we'll break down just some basic habits that people are either following or not, and some different mindset tools that everybody can kind of apply. And it really follows a lot of the backbone of the tune your mind concept. So figuring out if people are really in tune within their sales position or whatever role they have in the company there. And yeah, it's been a fun one.
There you go. Tune your mind. At least people should try using their mind first, probably. That's probably a good idea, and then tune it later. You might want to pick that thing up, dust it off your brain, and all that good stuff. So give people a final pitch out to order up the book, on board with you and your services and your .coms as we go out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. People can find me at cjledy.com, which also has links to all the other things, but you can find me at Mindset is Art podcast. My book's on Amazon, my audiobook's on Audible. Probably get it up on a few other sources coming up in the future too. But those are definitely the main ways to reach me. You can reach out, coach@cjledy.com. Would love to connect with anybody out there who's interested in anything we talked about today.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, CJ, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
There you go. Thanks for our audience for tuning in. Go check out the book wherever fine books are sold. It's called Tune Your Mind, Finding Follow-Through and Fulfillment in the Dawn of Distraction and Disruption, out January 9th, 2024. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTokity, all those crazy places on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next